Hi everyone. So today we were going to discuss the summary of the book The Alchemist. So first we will start the overview. The Alchemist is a story that inspires and encourages one to chase their dreams. It is a story about a boy named Santiago and his recurring dream about a hidden treasure in the Egyptian pyramids. An old woman tells Santiago that this dream is prophetic and that he must follow its instructions and asks him to go to Egypt. A strange, magical old man named Melchizedek, who claims to be the king of Salem, tells Santiago that it is his personal legend to journey to the pyramids. Melchizedek convinces Santiago to sell his flock and set off to Tangier. When Santiago arrives in Tangier, a thief robs him, forcing him to find work with a local crystal merchant. The merchant teaches Santiago several lessons, and Santiago makes improvements that reward him favorably. After working for nearly 11 months, he joins a caravan crossing the Sahara Desert towards Egypt and meets an Englishman who wants to learn the secrets of alchemy from a powerful 200-year-old alchemist. The caravan eventually reaches the oasis of Al Fayum, and there Santiago meets an Arab girl named Fatima and falls in love with her instantly. While wandering through the oasis, Santiago sees two hawks fighting in the sky, which represents an omen about an enemy attack on the oasis. He warns the tribal chieftains of the attack, and as the result, Al Fayum successfully defends itself against the assault. The alchemist gets word of Santiago's vision and invites Santiago on a trip into the desert, during which he teaches Santiago about the importance of listening to his heart and pursuing his personal legend. He convinces Santiago to leave Fatima and the caravan for the time to finish his journey to the pyramids. He offers to accompany Santiago on the next phase of his trip. Santiago arrives at the Egyptian pyramid and begins to dig. He finds nothing buried in the ground and is beaten up by two thieves. After he tells them of his dream, though, one of the thieves recounts his own dream about a buried treasure in the sacristy of an abandoned church. Returning to Andalusia, Santiago goes back to the church where he dreamed of the treasure near the pyramids. He digs where he slept beneath a sycamore tree, and there it is, Santiago's treasure, a chest of jewels and golds. The dream interpreter, a shepherd boy named Santiago, lives in the beautiful town of Andalusia. He sleeps in an abandoned church where he was a recurring dream involving the site of pyramids. He is excited about an upcoming trip to a town where he had been the previous year, as he had met a girl he fell in love with. She is a daughter of a merchant who buys wool from him. A man with trust issues who demands Santiago share his ship in front of him to avoid any fraud. On his way to see the merchant and his daughter, Santiago visits the village of Tarifa. There he meets an old woman who interprets dreams. Santiago shares his recurring dream with the old woman. She agrees to interpret the dream if only Santiago shares 1/10 of any treasure he finds. The woman tells Santiago that dreams are the language of the world and he should travel to Egypt to find the treasure. Santiago is not very convinced by the woman's explanation and leaves her house. Melchizedek. One day, while reading a book, Santiago runs into an old man who seems to possess magical qualities. Though this old man is strange, he seems wise to Santiago. The old man introduced himself as Melchizedek, the king of Salem. Melchizedek explains the concept of personal legend, which is the personal fulfillment everyone is bound to pursue. He defines it as what you have always wanted to accomplish. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their personal legend is. He says that a person's real responsibility is to realize his or her personal legend. Melchizedek concludes that when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. दिस लाइन इज़ ऑलरेडी इन हिंदी ऑल्सो. जब हम किसी चीज़ को शिद्दत से चाहते हैं तो पूरी कायनात हमें उससे मिलाने की कोशिश में जुट जाती है. Melchizedek and Santiago decide to meet at the same time the next day. Melchizedek tells Santiago that the treasure is in Egypt near the pyramids and that he can find it by following the omens. He gives Santiago 2 stones called Urim and Thummim to consult if he ever needs help interpreting the omens. He says the black stone stand for yes and the white stone for no, advising Santiago to rely on the stones when he can't read the omens. The king asks him to sell his sheep so that he can travel to Egypt and bids him farewell. The Crystal Merchant. On arrival in Africa, a man pretending to assist Santiago by taking him to the pyramids robs him of all the money that Santiago had made from selling his sheep. This forces Santiago to take up employment to survive. Santiago finds a local crystal merchant who agrees to give him some employment. He tells Santiago that even a year's wages would not be enough to reach Egypt as it is more than thousands of kilometers away. He offers Santiago money to return to his hometown, to which Santiago refuses. He decided to work hard to earn money to reach Egypt and fulfill his destiny. After working for a month, Santiago suggests the crystal merchant build a display case for the crystal which the merchant can put outside his shop to attract more customers. The merchant was reluctant at first but decided to go with Santiago's ideas and the business flourished with the display case. Within 2 months and Santiago had enough money to return home and double his flock. One day, hearing a tourist complain of the thirst after climbing the hill, Santiago was struck with an amazing idea. He presented the idea to the merchant and asked him to sell tea in the crystal to the tourists. They started selling the tea and this resulted in a huge financial success for them. After nearly 11 months, Santiago has earned enough money to buy 120 sheep, a return ticket to Andalusia and a license to import products from Africa. But he decides to visit the Egyptian pyramid. He decides to forge onward in pursuit of his personal legend. The Englishman. Santiago hears that the most effective way to travel through the Saharan desert is to travel with a caravan. This is due to the dangers of wars that are being fought in the region. He ends up joining a caravan. In the caravan, he meets an Englishman in search of an Arab alchemist who lives by the oasis near the pyramids. He hopes to travel through the Sahara Desert to Al Fayoum oasis. On the way, there reportedly the home of a 200-year-old alchemist who can turn any metal into gold. Santiago shows Urim and Thummim to the Englishman. He is surprised when the Englishman shouts their names. The Englishman tells Santiago that the stones aren't valuable, then removes 2 identical stones from his own pocket. Santiago tells him that the stones came from a king, a fact which the Englishman is not surprised to learn. It was sheepherds who were the first to recognize a king that the rest of the world refused to acknowledge, he says. The oasis. One morning, Santiago awakens to see rows of date palms stretching across the entire desert. The caravan has reached the oasis. The camel driver tells Santiago that an oasis is considered neutral territory because it is populated mostly by women and children. Wars are simmering in the desert, so the caravan remains at the oasis for the time being. Santiago decides to help the Englishman find the alchemist. Their source of information is Fatima, a girl he meets as she is collecting water from the well and with whom he promptly falls in love. He proposes to marry her. Fatima promises to marry Santiago only if he completes his journey. One day when Santiago was wandering through the desert, he saw 2 hawks flying in the sky. Santiago relates it to the omen when one hawk attacks another. Santiago envisions an army attacking the oasis. Santiago tells the chieftains of his vision and warns the tribal chieftains of the attack. And as a result, Al Fayoum successfully defends itself against the assault. The next day, Santiago is presented with 50 pieces of gold and asked to be the counselor of the oasis. The alchemist. Walking back to his tent, Santiago encounters a black-garbed horseman. He reveals himself to be the alchemist. He got the message about Santiago's vision and wanted to meet him. The alchemist said that the wind told him Santiago was coming and would need help. The alchemist tells Santiago not to think about what he is leaving behind, explaining that everything is written in the soul of the world and there it will stay forever. Santiago chooses not to accept the offer of the tribal chieftain he wanted to accompany. The alchemist ride across the desert. The two men set out the next night. Santiago and the alchemist continue silently to cross the desert towards the pyramids. The alchemist shares much of his wisdom about the soul of the world on the way. However, they are soon captured by another group of warriors in the desert and are taken to the military camp. The alchemist says that they are just simple travelers and introduces Santiago as an alchemist, saying he understands the forces of nature and he wants to show you his extraordinary powers. The tribal commander says that he wants to see Santiago perform alchemy. The alchemist answers that in 3 days Santiago will transform himself into the wind. If he can't do so, we humbly offer you our life for the honor of your tribe, says the alchemist. Santiago's test. The alchemist explains to Santiago that if a person is living out his personal legend, he knows everything he needs to know. There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure. On the day of the test, Santiago brings the tribal chief to the cliff to demonstrate his hidden powers. At the cliff, Santiago realizes that the soul of the world is the soul of the god, which indeed was his own soul. Being acquainted with the soul of the world, Santiago transforms himself into the mightiest wind. This scares the captors, who promptly free them both. They continue their journey and make it to a monastery where the alchemist turns some lead into gold and divides it. Then the alchemist leaves Santiago in the desert, telling him no matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world, and normally he doesn't know it. The pyramids. Santiago rides his horse through the desert for hours. Finally, Santiago's heart whispers to him, "Be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is." He sees the pyramids in front of him. He starts digging into the place he dreamed about finding his treasure. Santiago digs through the night but finds nothing. Some thieves catch Santiago digging and assume he is hiding something. They rob him of the gold the alchemist gave him and beat him up badly. Santiago screams at them that he is only looking for treasure because he dreamed about a buried treasure at the Egyptian pyramid. One of the thieves tells Santiago that he had a recurring dream about a buried treasure. The thief said, "In my dream there was a sycamore growing out of the ruins of the sacristy, and I was told that if I dug at the roots of the sycamore, I would find a hidden treasure. But I am not so stupid as to cross an entire desert just because of a recurrent dream." After the thieves depart, Santiago sits up and starts laughing. He knows where the hidden treasure is buried. He returns to Spain to find a chest of jewels and gold buried under the tree, and plans to return with it to El Fayoum, where he will reunite with Fatima, who awaits him. Quotes. And when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. First, then the second one, it's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. Third, people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. 4. I don't live in either my past or my future. I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you will be happy, man. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment where we're living now. 5. There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure. 6. When we love, we always strive to become better than we are. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. 7. Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dream. 8. There is only one way to learn. It's through action. Everything you need to know, you have learned through your journey. What is the world's greatest lie? The little boy asked. The old man replies, "It's this, that at a certain point in our lives we lose control of what's happening to us and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. The simple things are also the most extraordinary things, and only the wise can see them. Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how other people should lead their life, but none about his or her own. The secret is here in the present. If you pay attention to the present, you can improve upon it, and if you improve on the present, what comes later will also be better." So this is the summary of the book, The Alchemist. If you like the summary, then please like the video and share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe our channel.